Paul, who do you think is your typical buyer or investor for purpose-built student accommodation? Who does it work well for?
It works well for everybody if they understand it fully.
Yeah.
It's changed massively over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we'd have seen it 3 or 4 years ago when we started. It was a bolder investor,
Okay.
you know, and now it's the majority of our investors are this. And it ranges from anyone who's coming up to retirement, in retirement, who have got some cash sat in a bank or an ISA doing nothing. And they don't want to be a property tycoon, they don't want to own properties, they just want a residual income coming in to cover.
Don't necessarily become a landlord and do day-to-day management themselves.
They just want a stress-free investment, you know, because this is totally hands-off for an investor. You know, it's handed over to a management company, which I'm sure we're going to. But we also found parents who get involved with it. So obviously a parent usually would pay for 3 or 4 years of student accommodation for their sons or daughters. They've got one of their children coming to the university, they might as well buy something, put their children in it, and then retain it as an investment. But more recently, we've actually found people using it as a portfolio stabiliser. So your traditional buy-to-let investors who leveraged, etc. Quite right, they did that, but you know, we've had it, and I don't want to say that that's going away, but we've had it very well for interest rates for a long time. And I think the security of this and the high yields it gives, you know, you're looking up to 10% of net returns.
Really nice.
Yeah, it gives them that income that can potentially sort of set other things off. You know, so if interest rates go 0.5%, etc., they've got that rate. So, and it's actually seen as quite a good thing from the bank side. You know, that they've got a steady income coming in that's been proved for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and then that can be aside the other properties, you know, and they do it that way. So basically, we can't judge now who it is. It's just our job is to try and explain that there's nothing bad about it. You know, there's very few differences in terms of where we market, why we market it, etc. A couple of differences in how it's bought, which is it. But you know, at the end of the day, it serves exactly the same function. It comes down to supply and demand. It comes down to location. It comes down to yield. It comes down to the ability to sell on. It's full ownership, full title. It's no different. It's on a long lease.
It's more like a traditional purchase.
It's more like
people might
realise.
Okay. So we'll touch on possibly the kind of the pros and cons and stuff on PBSA shortly, but just specifically on, I guess, from an investor's viewpoint, how much budget do they need to try and kind of get involved in something like this, and why the returns, obviously 10% or up to 10%, is great compared to many other residential buy-to-let kind of options out there. So how come PBSA is achieving that kind of level? So.
PBSA is very much a numbers-driven asset. You know, so we know, for example, where we are now in Peel, we know the average weekly rent is about £155 a week.
It's really strong rent.
It is, I mean, but for the student, that's all bills. No council tax, no Wi-Fi. You know, full service, etc.
One bill, they know
it's one bill, and that's it. So you know, it probably competes with a normal house, etc. And they've got the kitchen and the en-suites, etc. So we know that. We know they sign up for 51 weeks. You know, they generally have to pay 6 to 12 months in advance, or they have a guarantor preparing, or there's facilities out there that help you guarantor. So you work out 51 times 160, margin service charges, you know, etc., your management charges. And that leaves you with the figure in this particular place of 10%. The purchase price here is around about 65k. And that's it.
It's a strong lens, relatively low kind of asset cost compared to other options and stuff out there.
I mean, that's it. It might seem a lot, but when you look at that as a buy-to-let deposit, you know, it's not a massive amount of money usually you want, because you don't also have the same buying cost you would with a residential property. You know, for example, there's no stamp duty when you purchase one of these. They come fully furnished. Solicitors' fees are pretty basic. You know, the searches are done and that's it. So you don't have all them extras on top when you take in. If someone's got a 65k budget for a residential property, the odds are that's actually realistically 55k. When you look at furniture, stamp duty, etc.
And but like when you get a new property, you might have some work to do into it, even if it's just painted, decorated.
Absolutely. And they're costs, and you don't have that with this. And what will generally happen is that the developer will then assign a management company who will take over the management of that. The developer will then commit to an assurance to the owner, saying, I will give you X amount of X per year for 5 years
Yeah.
usually. And the reason it is only 5 years is because rents increase by 3 to 4% in this market,
Yeah.
and in 5 years you actually want to look at your true reflection, which is probably going to be like 11.5%.
Yeah.
And that carries on going for as long as you want. Because again, without being too specific, in this particular location, this is the reason we focus on this location, is there 3,000 beds in Newcastle under Lyme,
Yeah.
and 2,700 of those are on campus.
Okay.
There's 300 in the town centre, which is growing,
Yeah.
what we've got. But there's 11,800 students in Keele Uni alone.
Wow. So yeah, it's nowhere near enough.
No, a 1,500 intake this year. They
Yeah.
expect that to be for the next 4 or 5 years. You've got the University Hospital
Yeah.
just down the road, and you've also got Staffs University. So the amount of demand is
Yeah.
incredible, but there's no supply.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, if you put that into a residential context,
Yeah.
and said you're in a town and you've got 20,000 population, but 4,000 homes.
Yeah. Yeah, landlords would love to buy a
Yeah.
straightforward 2-bedroom house,
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to have a consistent tenant.
No, and that's what this does.
Yeah.